Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to History of Horror Cinema, my personal podcast tour of the good, bad, and the ugly of horror movie history. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe. Friday the 13th Part 3, the 3D version, 1982. For his return to directing Paramount's Friday the 13th Part 3, Steve Miner and new producer Frank Mancuso Jr. opted to refresh the franchise by reintroducing the 3D technique last used to re-energize the flagging medium back in the 50s. Though it can't enhance the one-dimensionality of some of the actors, there is childlike fun to be had reveling in the crowd-pleasing gimmickry if you can see the film in 3D. The 2017 Region 1 US box set I have features it in both 2D and this reviewed 3D version. In the excellent book Crystal Lake Memories, the sequel's contributors recalled how painstaking it was to shoot scenes specifically for the 3D format. To work effectively, any time a prop is aimed at the audience, it must be pointed precisely toward the camera and kept in sharp focus. This is not as easy as it sounds, especially since you're constantly having to break the fourth wall of suspended disbelief as an actor to pull it off. Examples where both elements are lacking include the boys juggling balls, shot from overhead, and the hippie making popcorn, with the camera also aimed down at the popping kernels. In each case, the projectiles fire to the sides of us and are too hazy to read effectively. When the format works, though, it pays off thrillingly, if a little crudely. The opening store owner plunging his laundry pole through the clotheslines right at us plays well, as does the roadside kook dangling a loose eyeball towards us like a sideshow barker. Each of Jason's kills also makes the most of the form, but let's not get too far out in front, if you'll pardon the pun, just yet. After a cheeky padded prologue, featuring roughly the entire last 7 minutes of Part 2, the usual motley assortment of SAG-AFTRA minimum teens show up. We can largely treat them with the same disrespect as Mrs. Voorhees' Pride and Joy does. In particular, there is Larry Zerner's Shelley, who to be fair does well considering in real life he was a non-actor, literally spotted on the street as a Jew-froed instant oddball type. He is cast, however, as the tiresome Joker, who whines about his loser self-image so much that you want him shish-kebabbed almost immediately. Worse is Dana Kimmel's final girl Chris, who can't even be given depth by the 3 dimensions of VFX. Brief amusement can be had by looking at the 3 gang members, Ali, Fox, and Loco, whom Shelley and Vera, Catherine Parks, tangle with. They're dressed in that hilarious off-the-peg look of 80s gangbangers. Cut-off denim jackets, bandanas, detachable sneer that belongs in an episode of The A-Team, not an adult horror movie. Mercifully, they don't last long. On the plus side, we do get some threat level supplied by the corrective casting of a more intimidating Jason this time, Richard Brooker. He is taller, broader, and attempts postures and guttural sounds more befitting of an unstoppable, indeed supernatural serial killer. Equal kudos is given to Harry Manfredini's excellent soundtrack. The string cues are lush and more prominently placed than in Part 2. Play it loud through headphones for maximum effect. The score, coupled with Jason's well-targeted 3D kills, do make this a sequel worth seeing. I defy anyone not to flinch when the spear gun arrow fires straight at you, and I'm sure the popped eyeball squeezed out of a later victim's crushed head delighted gorehounds in theaters on its release. Nevertheless, despite these bids for entertainment value, the ending once again sinks into the depths of previous illogicality. Chris dreams of escaping an unmasked Jason in a canoe, only to be grabbed from the lake by an uprising Mrs. Voorhees, who somehow now has a reattached head. This lake needs serious investigation for its unearthly rejuvenation properties. The awoken Chris is led away by the sheriff's men, suffering what is meant to be PTSD, but is played as woeful, cackling Amdram. She's clearly convincing enough to distract the cops, as the dim bulbs have ignored the macheted body of Jason lying in the open doorway of the barn. Miner's gamble as director worked, though. Made for double the budget of the last one, this threequel grossed $36.7 million, even dethroning E.T. from the top spot to become 1982's second highest grossing film. Friday the 13th Part 3 was originally designed to finish the franchise as a trilogy, and would have finished on a high of sorts, yet the box office persuaded the makers into one more go at what would surely be the final chapter. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe.